This video is brought to you by the B&H Photo Build Expo. Now, unfortunately, I can't go this year, but it may be an awesome opportunity for you to see some of your favorite photographers, videographers, and content creators. For details about the event and to register for free, check the link in the description. B&H Photo asked me to mention that. In this video, I want to talk about the Nikkor Z 35mm f1.2s. I have officially had this lens for 3 months, and I have been shooting a lot with it. Not 10,000 shutter clicks worth, but multiple thousands at least. I've covered everything from portraits to shallow depth of fieldy stuff, which is what I do whenever I just need to like unwind. You guys don't see that too much. That's probably 2,000 frames and maybe 1,000 portraits or so with Ali. I'm not going to bother putting up a specific video tag above because I've done several videos with the 35 f1.2, and so I'll just say go to YouTube and type in Z Wade Photo and then 35mm f1.2s, and you'll probably get multiple videos to see what I've done with this on YouTube over the last 3 months. Quick backstory, if you hadn't been following the channel for a while, I waited for this lens forever. It was a rumor for so long, going back like years. So needless to say, whenever it dropped, I was really overexcited. But I did kind of control myself a little bit because Nikon hadn't impressed me with the Z-mount 35mm. I didn't find the 1.4, the 1.8 particularly exciting. The 1.8, totally fine. Optically, it's pretty decent, but rather uninspiring and kind of slow. And then the 35-1.4 is just like a lesser version of that for only $100 less, and I think both of those lenses were kind of overpriced. What I'm saying is I felt like Nikon was in a funk with 35mm. So I didn't just take the money that I had set aside and just throw it at this. I actually waited for some of the people that tend to be either more fair or kind of mean towards Nikon, and I decided to wait and see what they had to say about it. So of course, when the embargo lifted, everybody and their mother that had their hands on this before the release, they dropped all their videos at once, and I just watched basically all of them and decided, yes, I'm going to get it, and on day one, I actually bought it. So kind of an unpopular opinion I have about the 35-1.2s is I think it's kind of the only game in town as far as 35mm go from Nikon. Like, Nikon made and branded 35mm. Even though this lens is outrageously expensive, it's really hard to argue the price. I think the 1.8 is overpriced. I think it should be priced at the 50-1.8s price, and the 35-1.4 is just inherently overpriced as well. Neither of those lenses I find that good. This lens I find to be absolutely stunning. Maybe Nikon's best that I've used so far. By so far, I mean at zwadephoto.com/theopticexplorer, I've been on a journey to test every single Nikon branded Z-mount lens. At the making of this video, I only have 5 lenses left to test before I complete everything that is current. I'm caught up, so to speak. And this lens, it's probably not the best optically. I still kind of give that to the 85-1.2. I think that's the most optically perfect lens. There's a couple of lenses that actually have legitimate top scores across the board optically, the highest score that you could possibly get as far as I judge lenses. This lens didn't quite make it there, but it's basically my favorite lens that Nikon makes. Now, I did make a video, I'll put that one up there somewhere, where I did the 35 versus the 85-1.2s lenses to figure out which one was my favorite. And at that moment, I actually kind of decided that this was my favorite lens of all time. Now, that has kind of shifted a little bit back to the 85-1.2. There's just some things about that as far as portraits go that are just no other lens does. And at the end of the day, I don't like doing it, but honestly, I can't really shift back 100%. I would say that the 35-1.2s and the 85-1.2 are both my favorite lenses of all time. I kind of enjoy using this one more. I think it's more fun. It challenges me to move around a little bit more and kind of get outside of what I usually do as far as like portraits go. And so to me, it's more fun. This is... Dang it. I'm formulating my thoughts as I go right now. The 35-1.2s is my favorite lens to use of all time, probably. And the 85-1.2 might be my favorite just optically of all time. I don't know. I'm still contested, guys. I should just throw that whole part out, but I'm probably not going to. You can go to zwadephoto.com/theopticexplorer to see the scoring that I gave this, but I'm having a ton of fun with it, and it's basically hasn't been left at home since I got it. So every single video that you've seen since the very first video I made on this, whether I'm making a YouTube video about this lens or not, it has been at least within the vicinity. I either leave it at the studio in case I want to go back and get it, or it's actually like in my bag as I'm using another lens, because I don't want to leave home without it, because I find it so useful. This is why I like to have a 35mm all the time, and it's been a struggle over the last few years because I didn't really like the 1.8. I didn't really like the 1.4, as I already mentioned. And so now that I have one, it's kind of gone back to like the F-mount days where I pretty much always had a 35mm on hand. I know 35mm aren't everybody's bag, but I find them to be a lot of fun to use because they're kind of in that area between not being perfect for portraits and not really being like wide enough for some things. And so it gets you moving, it gets you thinking, it gets you kind of more creative in the field. And I like that, especially in a world now where the camera is doing most of the work. You can lose your creative chops, you know, if you're going out in the field and just letting the camera do everything and find focus, and you're just kind of stuck like composing. Do I want to do the right side of rule of thirds or the left side of rule of thirds? Do I want more headroom, or do I want to go a center composition? And then you kind of forget that sometimes you got to scoot around a little bit, you know? So that's what this lens has been doing. It's got me scooting around. It's got me using my feet a lot more. It's got me looking for new things and new subframes. There's areas in Augusta, subframes that I've shot 100 times that are just totally different with the 35. You get more of that subframe and less of the subject, and I like that because it's weird. It's more focus on this and less focus on, you know, the actual subject. And I like that. I like that. If it was just the 85 all the time, the 85 1.2, I'd be way back there to get that same frame, and I may not have even seen it. I wouldn't have been able to appreciate that perspective because I just may have not had that perspective at all. Now moving on to the stuff that you guys probably don't care as much about, but it's basically my main thing besides fine art and bodyscape off of YouTube, the shallow depth of fieldy stuff. A tale of two lenses, the 50mm f1.2s and the 35mm f1.2s. By the way, can you tell which one's which? Probably not, because they are so incredibly similar. The 50-1.2s and the 35-1.2s. Even though before I got this, the 85mm f1.2 was basically uncontested as my favorite lens of all time, it never took the place of my favorite for shallow depth of fieldy stuff. I just don't like the perspective, right? And I found myself doing shallow depth of field stuff with the 50mm f1.2s. What I have been doing a lot lately is I've been using the 35-1.2s for that kind of work. Now, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that I still may prefer the 50mm focal length, not the lens, not the actual 50-1.2s and the 35-1.2s, but just 50 and 35. The focal length itself, I may actually kind of still prefer the 50 for that work most of the time. But since I'm still kind of undecided today of which one is my favorite for that kind of work, I do have a video coming up soon where I just do a side-by-side shootout of these two lenses on the same subject to make the decision finally which one I like the most of the time for shallow depth of field stuff. Now, putting this aside and getting back to the 35mm f1.2s, I will say that since I do enjoy using this lens so much for all kinds of things, I do still very, very much enjoy the 35-1.2 for that shallow depth of fieldy kind of stuff. It is a little bit different. If I'm in a particular mood, so the 50-1.2 I feel like is kind of the perfect kind of frame and the amount of absolutely destroyed background for that kind of work. I think it's kind of perfect for that. Like the ratio of scene to tiny bit that's in focus is really excellent. And the 35, it also has a different kind of feel to it, but there is less focus on the subject, right? Because the subject is smaller, right? And because you have so much of the scene that is completely destroyed and out of focus. And so it has a vibe. So honestly, I'm gonna make a prediction for that video. Subscribe so you don't miss it whenever it launches. I'm gonna predict that most of the time, I'll probably prefer that 50 kind of feel, but I will get in the mood for more destroyed background, right? And so I'll find myself using this as well. Now, whenever I go out and I want to do like a portrait shoot off of YouTube, it's generally been the 35-1.2 and the 85-1.2 with the 50 in the bag. Now, on the few of those shoots that I've done, the 50 actually didn't end up coming out of the bag because I totally just loved having the 35 over here, the 85 over here, and dual wielding between those two lenses. So I didn't feel the need to pull out the 50, but you know, I still rarely leave home without that lens anyway. So it's just there. And I think that really is the power of this lens, is dual wielding it. It's fun to take out on its own and it does get you moving around, but if you're doing any kind of like work or anything like that, it is so nice to have 85 and 35. I really love dual wielding those two focal lengths. So to kind of wrap this up, because it's getting very hot in my soundproof studio here, this lens on its own is massively powerful, right? It's optically stunning, gorgeous rendering, kind of special look. It's just everything you could want, and it's a very, very good time. But if you pair this with a longer lens like the 85-1.2 or a 105 or a 135 plena, that makes you so incredibly powerful as a photographer and incredibly efficient. If you want to pick this lens up for yourself, or the 50-1.2 or the 85-1.2 or any other lens that I might have mentioned while I was ranting in this video, check out the links in the description. I get a 2% commission if you do so. I'm Z Wade, the Z Wade, and Z Wade Photo. Stay sharp, YouTube.